Our session. So good afternoon, everybody in Stockholm, and warm greetings to those that are joining us online. Buenas tardes a quienes nos acompañan en Estocolmo esta tarde y buenos días, buenas tardes, buenas noches a aquellos que nos acompañan en línea. So this session will take place in English and Spanish. For those wishing to access the simultaneous interpretation channels, please connect through the Interaction app. Esta sesión se llevará a cabo en inglés y español. Para quienes deseen acceder a la interpretación simultánea, los invito a que se conecten a través de la aplicación Interaction. So welcome everybody to this session, Maximizing the Development Value of Water. My name is Ernenek Duran, Senior Director of Programs and Director of Lazos de Agua for the One Drop Foundation. And I will be the moderator of this session, and I will be also the keynote speaker. So can you hear me in the room? Yeah, okay, thank you. So I think we are in a transition mode, right? Because we were full presence before the pandemic, then we went full virtual, and now we are exploring this new hybrid mode. So please bear with us. We might have some glitches, but we will make the best of this session. So following my opening remarks, I will open the floor to 5 panelists who will present cases supported by tools, methodologies, mechanisms, and evidence that propose innovative ways to increase the social and economic impact of and sustainability of water and sanitation investments. Towards the end, it will be a pleasure to interact with you during the Q&A sessions. Please send your questions through the Pathable for those online, and here in the room, we will do as all days, just raise your hands and we will give you the mic. And at the end, we will have some closing remarks from Grisel Medina from the Water National Commission of Mexico. So let's begin. I will take just a few minutes to do my opening remarks. So it is well known that all that the starting point for human development in a society, it's access to adequate water, sanitation, and hygiene services. But it is not by accident that in 2010, the United Nations recognized them as a human right. While sustainable access to wash services plays a key role in our socio-economic development, simple access is not everything. And the challenge of having universal access comes with several additional challenges that have nothing to do with infrastructure. Before talking about them, let's take a quick look at some of the access challenges that we are still facing today. And as in the previous session of the Focus of the Americas, Sergio was mentioning that we have received very bad news, right? Like things are not good, droughts are increasing. We have several droughts in northern parts of Mexico, in the United States. The IPCC report is telling us that if we don't act now, it will be too late, or we might be too late. And also, according to the 2020 JMP report on progress on household drinking water and sanitation and hygiene, the world is not on track to achieve SDGs targets 6.1 and 6.2. So at current rates of progress, should be multiplied by 4 if we want to achieve universal coverage by 2030. And not surprised, the least developed countries, fragile contexts, rural areas, poor populations, and communities in vulnerable situations will require the most effort. And although rural coverage of safely managed drinking water services has increased faster than urban coverage, the challenge is much greater in these settings. So in 2020, rural areas were home to 8 out of 10 people who still lacked access to even basic drinking water services, 2/3 of the people lacking basic sanitation services, and 92% of the population practicing open defecation. However, I want to emphasize that access is very different from use, and use is very different from adoption. If we want people to adequately use and appropriate infrastructure and to adopt adequate hygiene practices, it is not enough to install the right technology or to provide traditional trainings. For securing sustainable access to wash services and to achieve the full realization of its benefits, It is necessary to think about how to solve challenges that are related to inadequate hygiene practices, low levels of payment of water and sanitation services, low connection rates to sewer services when they are available, low use of sanitation facilities, a weak or non-existent wash market, adapting to climate change, inadequate use of infrastructure, inefficient use of resources, and the list can go on. So these challenges, in addition to those of access, represent a huge responsibility for those of us working in the sector, as well as for local stakeholders and people accessing the services, that is the end user. However, these challenges are a source of inspiration and can push us to think outside the box, to think of innovative solutions, tools, and approaches to address them. And that's why we are here today. And as I previously mentioned, and I want to be clear on that, these innovative solutions that will be presented in these cases and that are being piloted somewhere else in the world have nothing to do with infrastructure, or very little, right? They think we know how to do it, but there are some other challenges like the one I mentioned that are not. So the question is, how can we go further and ensure that today's wash investments are sustainable and that we maximize the potential for social and economic impact? We need to increase collaborations and use and develop inclusive approaches and tools that allow us to better understand the system and interact with various stakeholders. We have learned that sustainable access to wash services is achieved through systemic and innovative models in which communities play an active role. They are not simple spectators. Hence the importance of using groundbreaking ideas. So the evidence-based cases from Latin America that panelists will share with us today, in which they use, in these cases, the users of systems are protagonists. And as the UN emphasized, and I like this very much, to successfully provide adequate wash service levels, we need to implement the right systems. And that is institutions appropriately resourced and capable of delivering services and changing behaviors in an appropriate and resilient manner. Arts, for example, can provide valuable spaces for reflection. It can also encourage the co-creation of solutions with and by the communities and other key stakeholders. Besides needing access, the communities are the ones who make it possible and sustainable. So without further ado, I will now give the floor to Ana Sisa, who is joining online through Zoom. And she is manager of monitoring, evaluation, research, and learning at the One Drop Foundation. Ana will share with us her experience on how behavior change using social art contributes to sustainable access to wash services in a program that aims to engage 200,000 people in 5 Latin American countries by the end of 2022. Ana.
Thank you, Rene. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. It's a pleasure to be here, even though I'm virtual. So in your speech, you talked about the importance of behavior change in wash improvement projects. But what makes a wash behavior change approach effective, right? What elements increase their chances of success? If you want to maximize the value of investments in wash, these are important questions to ask, both from a donor's and an implementer's perspective. Well, thankfully, researchers have precisely investigated these questions as part of a systematic review. I don't know if you can support me with the slide over there, if it's on. Yeah, so these researchers have precisely investigated these questions. They identified several key effective elements of behavior promotion, and those are in the slides. I don't know if you're able to see them. And if not, I'll just continue. But so remember them. So one is to understand key behavioral barriers and facilitators. The second one is to include elements of psychosocial theory to design the intervention. Thank you. The third one, involving the community in various stages. And fourth, for community-based approaches, having a facilitator who's part of the community, who is representative of it. And last but not least, going beyond one-way messaging in communication. right? These findings were published in 2017, right around the time when the Lazos de Agua program was under design. And Lazos de Agua, like Ernest mentioned, is a WASH program with a strong behavior change component. So this review was very useful for us. And its findings were in fact very aligned with the behavior change approach we were in the midst of cooking. This approach is called Social Art for Behavior Change, or SABC for short. And let me show you how it includes each of these proven effective elements. Next slide, please. I'll illustrate it with this picture. These women live in a village in Mexico, one of the 380 villages where the program intervenes across 5 countries in Latin America. As part of the SABC approach, they participated in puppet making workshops, facilitated by a local artist. And before the workshops, in the design phase, formative research informed the artist's strategy by revealing the profile of priority groups, such as these women, who ought to practice a certain behavior, and the behavioral barriers and facilitators that influence whether or not they engage in the behavior. Conducting formative research to inform the design also included elements of psychosocial theory. In particular, we used the integrated behavioral model for WASH by Dre Belbis. And once the behavioral barriers and facilitators were identified, understood, the artist started ideating and prototyping SABC interventions that would address them, alongside community representatives. Right? So the community was involved during the design phase, starting from the formative research and also when testing the interventions. Now, during the workshop implementation, these women crafted puppets. They produced a puppet show from scratch. They presented the show aiming at influencing a particular WASH behavior amongst their peers. So here again, the community was not only involved in participating in the intervention, but some of them were designing and delivering the intervention. These women are part of the community they now influence. They are representative of it. And during the whole process, there's plenty of interpersonal communication in all directions, right? Between the implementer, the participants, all directions. So this process of involving community members and forming leaders of change with art to address behaviors is what the SABC approach is about. In Mexico, there have been more than 30 groups like this one that have created their own puppet show. And puppet making is just one type of SABC interventions carried out. There have been hundreds of interventions of various social art forms, such as short film making, mural making, theater, songwriting, social circus, etc. Now, has this been effective? Next slide, please. Various studies have been conducted over the lifespan of the program, which is now in its final year. In this graph, we can see how the percentage of the population practicing the encouraged behaviors, we call them doers, increased for all 4 behaviors between baseline and midline. Now, various program efforts complementary to the SABC approach could have contributed together to these behavioral outcomes, right? The SABC approach addresses psychosocial barriers and facilitators such as social norms, social cohesion, while other program efforts take care of contextual and technological barriers, such as improving access to water and sanitation services. Indeed, the SABC approach needs to be embedded in a system strengthening approach, one that holistically can address the different types of behavioral barriers and facilitators that are relevant to the context. We did not conduct an experimental study to examine clear relative attributions for each one of the various interventions of the program, because the program is very complex and has many layers of interventions and actors working together, having a synergistic effect. However, to complement these quantitative results, we conducted story-based interviews with participants of SABC interventions to see what changes they have experienced since then. And 78% out of 177 respondents identified hand washing with soap at key moments among the changes they have noticed. So besides creating a sufficiently confident level of attribution for us, these interviews revealed other interesting outcomes, such as changes that transcend the individual and are felt at the household and community level that may suggest changes in social norms. to improve dialogue between water users and water user committee members that suggest outcomes such as increased social cohesion and increased trust. And 3, increases in self-confidence. For example, some people said they feel more comfortable public speaking or taking the lead in matters of community well-being. So those are just a few examples of outcomes the program has been able to bring about and measure. We invite you to read our peer-reviewed article that here someone is going to share in the chat for you to see, and wait for the findings of the summative evaluation coming up early next year. And so to conclude, the experience of Lazos de Agua suggests that to maximize the likelihood of multiple outcomes in wash investments, it is key to care deeply about the process, one that is evidence-based, theory-based, community-based, and participatory, arts-based, and human-centered. That's it for me. Thank you, Renek.
Thank you very much. As you pointed out, it is clear that the process centered on communities is essential to achieve the appropriation of the projects and promote their sustainability. The results that Anna shared with us regarding behavior change uptake are a proof of it. And just for you to know, right now we are conducting the final data collection to contrast to the midterm and the midterm and baseline. So with now I want to pass the mic to Yusuke Teraoka from the Japanese International Cooperation Agency, who will be presenting a case about improving the water supply system in a marginalized peri-urban area of Lima, Peru. Yusuke is joining us from Zoom.
Yeah, thank you very much. Good morning from Lima. Yes, can you hear me? Yes, let me start. Can you hear me? Just confirm. Yes, thank you very much. Yes, thank you very much for introducing me. Yes, my name is Yusuke from JICA, Japan International Cooperation Agency. Yeah, I'm working in Peru for managing an ongoing project and exploring a new project in the sector of water and sanitation. And today, I'm going to talking about the one last mile water challenge to deliver water underserved and how to reach population in Lima. The next page, please. Firstly, let me touch upon geographic and social characteristics of Lima. This slide shows a snapshot of the situation of a water utility of Lima. As known widely, Lima is a capital city of Peru, and its population has grown increasingly over the past years, and the population has become around 10 million people. In addition to this concentration of population due to the highly dry climates, the city has been suffered from the serious water shortage. In fact, the precipitation is just 6 millimeters per year approximately, which ranked the second driest city in the world in accordance with the World Bank report. For this reason, CEDAPAR, which is the water service agency of Lima, has been dedicated with distributing water citizens of Lima through developing water infrastructure. And thanks to this effort, now the coverage of water service has reached 90%. However, the population growth has continued, and it's the predominant reason is migration of low-income persons from rural areas. When they leave their hometown and come to Lima, they tend to inhabit in the outskirts of the city and formed informal settlements. The areas where they live are often located in mountainous areas. Due to this hard-to-reach situation, the existing water supply system can't necessarily cover this population, and the fact that the population spreads in a scattered manner, and that makes it more difficult for the existing system to provide water with them taking into account technical and financial aspects such as affordability or cost efficiency. And therefore, people without water distribution system are given access to water by tanker truck. Participatory is operating as a social responsibility. And by this means, almost 800,000 people are provided with water. However, some areas are too difficult to reach even by this approach using tanker truck because of narrow path or the high altitude. As a result, there remain 90,000 people without safer and continuous access to basic water service. In addition, Peru is the most infectious country of the COVID-19, and one of the reasons of the widespread of virus is considered this limited access to sanitation. The next page, please. In order to tackle this issue, CEDAPAR and JICA talked with each other and have decided reach agreement to carry out this project. According to our mutual agreements, we started the project this year. The first step, we procured a water treatment purification system to produce drinking water. Since in Lima, tap water is not so preferable for drinking, it is very important to ensure the quality of water for drinking. And in order to meet condition, the project procured the installed water purification system, and then they can produce highly qualified water. Then thinking of the situation, this is how to reach it is how to carry a big water bottles. Then looking at this difficulty of carrying water, we decided to use 2-liter bags to prepare packing water. The equipment such as purification system and the packing machine was obtained, installed in this April. And after that, CEDAPAR started distributing these water bags for the target population. At the same time, we prepared flyers to raise awareness of hand washing and the importance of better sanitation, because cleaner environment was critical in the context of prevention and the minimization of outbreak of COVID-19 or the other infectious diseases. Then we are going to have workshops through webinar to make sure the population make a habit of washing hands. To take a close look at the detail, now we are in the first phase. We are going to distribute water bags for 4,500 people. After that, CEDAPAR is going to carry out a water distribution activity in 15,000 persons in 3 months. After these 7 months, this activity will be maintained and scaled in the longer term. The next page, please. As a conclusion, taking into account that this project is still going on, I think I could raise some outcomes and some expectations. Firstly, this project has improved the quality of water they use. In addition, it reduced the difficulty of water access. Then they don't need to collect and carry heavy water buckets. Apart from those, we expect that this project will bring and contribute to reduction and prevention of spread of diseases through raising awareness activity. And also, I expect the decrease in diarrhea or the other, along with the progress of the project. Thank you very much. This is all my presentation.
Thank you very much, Yusuke. So this is a clear example of how to reach the last mile in a very difficult context in Lima, right? So without further ado, I want to invite now Gisela, who is joining us from Peru as well. She's the director for Water for People in Peru, and she's joining us today. So please, an applause to Gisela, right? Thank you.
Good afternoon to all of you present here. Buenos días a todos los que se nos unen desde Latinoamérica. Es un gusto para mí compartir este momento con ustedes. It's a pleasure for me sharing this space with you. And I want to start putting in some context about Peru. Peru is a country with nearly 33 million inhabitants. 22% of them are rural population. And in that segment, 23% still doesn't have access to safe water. Nearly 70% doesn't have access to sanitation. And approximately 15% still of population still practices open defecation. Next slide, please. In 2017, the government established that the national regulator is called SUNAS, which was at that time was only working with urban utilities, has to be in charge of also rural population, rural providers. It meant that one of the first things they did was to establish the methodology for the calculus of rural tariffs. And that is the number in the norm was published in July 18. And here's the process we defined for the implementation of the methodology in the districts where Water for People works in Peru. It starts with the capacity building of local stakeholders. We sort of translate the law in terms of building a methodology script in order to explain it to the communities and for local authorities. After that, we planned a geographic division of the districts. We made open calls for all the parts who work in the district. We facilitate the team training and prepare the materials needed to inform the local authorities and communities. After that, we started the socialization of the methodology with local governments and with the authorities who are responsible for the provision of rural services, and then developing an operational plan. And it implies making a diagnostic, making an operational annual plan. After that, they estimated an annual budget. And finally, the determination of the rural tariff. And then we started updating the rural tariff. It meant that we try to put a lot of workshops with the rural organizations. And finally, in an assembly, in the general assembly, with a presentation of nearly most of the users, the rural community authorities present the new tariff to the assembly, and the users finally approve or decide to disapprove the new rural tariff. Next slide, please. Which are our results so far? First, 96% of the rural communities in Asunción, Cascas, and Reque, which are the districts where we work, decided that their tariffs using the methodology established by SUNAS, where the national average is nearly 39%. 63% of the communities approved their tariffs in general assemblies. In Cascas, the average monthly rural tariff increased by 50% with a default rate of less than 10%. Finally, 2 methodology scripts tested in territory, used in workshops, and published in collaborative work with SUNAS. Next slide, please. Which are some lessons learned when implementing this process? First, Peru is a territory very complex, not only because of its geography, but also because of the number of rural providers. We have nearly 27,000 of rural providers. And so we need to design a strategy in order to increase the percentage of communities that implement this methodology. Second, increasing rural tariffs, reducing the default rate, and creating water service value in rural populations is possible when sharing adequate and relevant information for making decisions. And third, alliances like NGOs and government agencies are relevant and serve as an instrument or sort of facilitator that brings the state closer to its population in order to improve laws and regulations to develop better services, which are our main objective. Thank you.
Thank you, Gisela. So this is another great example of how to involve the communities, how to work with local governments to adopt tariffs, to promote the adoption of tariffs, and but again, community at the center of the intervention, right? Communities at the core of the work that Water for People is doing in Peru. Thank you very much, Gisela. Now we will go back to our Zoom speakers with Edgar Fajardo, who is the Water and Sanitation and Hygiene Officer for UNICEF in Guatemala. And Edgar will present a case on sustainable total sanitation and hygiene as a catalyst in improving water quality and hygiene habits in 22 municipalities in 4 departments of Guatemala. Please, Edgar.
Thank you, Ornella. Hello, I'm going to present in Spanish. So, es un gusto saludarles. Les saluda Edgar Fajardo y les voy a presentar la experiencia de Satoshi. Es agregando valor al agua al nivel de hogar en Guatemala, maximizando el desarrollo del agua. Y les hablaré particularmente de la experiencia de UNICEF y socios Helvetas, Abril, Azorech y Acodillo en 22 municipios afectados por la desnutrición en 4 departamentos en Guatemala. Y esta intervención se orienta a mejorar el acceso a servicios de agua, saneamiento y higiene de las familias en 600 comunidades en esta área. Si fueran tan amables de presentar el slide, por favor. Muy bien, muchas gracias. Antes quiero comenzar explicándoles qué es ATO, o saneamiento e higiene total sostenible. Es una metodología de intervención integral que la lidera la comunidad. Es una evolución de lo que se conoce como CLPS o Santolí. Y en este caso lo que aborda son casi todas las rutas de contaminación fecal oral y que se basa en el cambio de comportamiento colectivo y que genera una activación positiva hacia hábitos que mejoran la calidad de vida y el ambiente en el que viven las personas que no la tienen. Las comunidades toman y en su hábito de formación para generar los cambios Perdón, no sé si me escuchan ahora, cambio.
Sí, mejor, Edgar.
Ah, vaya, muy amable, muchas gracias. Perdón, no entendía, no sabía si estaban escuchando. Gracias. Satoshi es una metodología, como les explicaba, que la lidera la comunidad y que, en términos generales, como ustedes ven en ese diagrama, este diagrama lo que hace es mostrar las diferentes rutas de contaminación de las heces hacia un nuevo individuo, hacia un nuevo ente hospedero. Pero casi siempre hemos trabajado en Santolic desde la base del saneamiento, pero no se había abordado tanto el tema de la cantidad de agua ni la calidad del agua. En términos generales, estos son 2 temas que debe abordarse para mejorar o disminuir las rutas de contaminación que se tienen en las personas. Entonces, lo que la metodología busca es activar, además del saneamiento, la higiene, la calidad, en términos de calidad del agua, los diferentes mecanismos relacionados con el tratamiento al agua el saneamiento que vincula básicamente ese sentimiento, no solo también es una mezcla de sentimientos en tanto asco, vergüenza, autoestima y deseo de mejorar de manera colectiva de las comunidades. Por otra parte, se activa las prácticas de lavado de manos de una manera apropiada, el fortalecimiento de capacidades que genere empoderamiento en la comunidad y la mejora para el desarrollo de sus proyectos a nivel comunitario. La siguiente, por favor. Entonces, básicamente lo que se hace a nivel comunitario es llevar a las familias a que entiendan o a que explicándoles que a través de estos procesos de saneamiento, higiene, agua y fortalecimiento de capacidades, ellas son capaces de reflexionar desde su entorno y se busca que vayan cambiando sus métodos o mecanismos de intervención. La siguiente, por favor. Básicamente, el paso del Satoso. Las ciencias son la municipal, la comunitaria y la nacional. Desde la perspectiva del abordaje municipal, se hace para lograr un involucramiento de las autoridades en mejorar la cobertura, coordinar la implementación, priorizar comunidades, presupuestar nuevas intervenciones, certificar comunidades, a manera de que éstas sean libres de contaminación fecal ambiental y que además se mejoren las posibilidades de sostenibilidad en el municipio, es decir, incrementando el presupuesto orientado a servicios de agua y saneamiento. En el ámbito comunitario, trabaja todos los días, básicamente en este proceso tiene muchas posibilidades de éxito. Posteriormente posteriormente la posactivación que se orienta a la implementación de actividades WASH. Ahora, en el ámbito nacional, se orienta a la réplica, la escala y la sostenibilidad. Para comentarles, no sé si me están escuchando. No sé si me están escuchando, disculpen.
Dale, Edgar.
Sí, perdón, ¿me escuchan?
Sí. Y puedes ir cerrando.
Ok, gracias. Sí. Ok, entonces en el ámbito nacional se tienen diferentes acciones de réplica, escala y sostenibilidad. La siguiente, por favor. Y en este caso se ha trabajado con más de 300,000 participantes, con 822 comunidades atendidas y más de 60,000 hogares. Algo importante acá es de mencionar que el costo de la intervención es de $37 por familia y esto se puede utilizar en situaciones de emergencia, tal como se aplicó durante las emergencias de ETA y OTA que afectaron el país en el 2020. Y estos son algunos de los resultados que se ha obtenido y que ustedes los tienen en pantalla. Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much, Edgar. Very interesting how you are in this, like I would say, improved CLTS. You are being able to go further and not just only in sanitation, but introduce hygiene also. And again, as we saw in his diagram, community participation again, it's key. So you now are following the thread of this journey today, right? So last but not least, I would like to introduce to you Myriam Dorfeuille, who is, technology doesn't help sometimes. Yeah, so Myriam Dorfeuille, she's the director of the National Observatory of Potable Water and Sanitation at the DINEPA in Haiti. And Myriam will share a case of CIEPA, which is a monitoring tool for WASH in rural context that serves for making better decisions, but also to innovate, as you told me,
Yes.
right? So.
Thank you, Duran. Hello, I'm Miriam Dope, as Duran said. I'm here to present you briefly our integrated water and sanitation information system developed on a water platform by DINEPA. As you know, DINEPA is a government agency for wash sector in Haiti. Next, the slide, please. Before I continue on our CEPA, I want to take a little bit moment to talk about a sewage technical cooperation we have with IDB. And we have one of the component of sewage. We have an impact of our system. This component we're going to improve the CEPA scope, and by adding a new model for planning and execution of infrastructure works. And with this part, DINEPA and partners will be able to know where exactly they need to increase the access to safe water in rural sector and urban also, and to achieve the SDG indicators. Next slide. Now I show you the scope of the CEPA and many details, and this picture show you our homepage of the system. Next slide. This is an important slide I need to explain you, because you can see the evolution of our data, because from 2017 we can have only the water point in the map, but with the evolution we have include the water system, and now we can had the subscribers in the map with the system, with the water point, and also we can show the commercial aspect also in one system. It's very interesting to mention that, because in the past we didn't have this. And we are also, another new tools we are working on is the Access Active, because from DINEPA, when we are working on the infrastructure system, we don't have the story of the intervention. Now we combine many information from each employees of each system. Now we put them on one system, and in the future, anyone can have access with this information and continue the intervention. This is all by direction can monitor the data from the system. Next slide. Here I want to talk about some results we had now. And as a result, DINEPA and partners will be able to have to monitor the system performance for sustainability and take the best decision for the waste sector in Haiti. And at this moment, as an example, we are working on a new program with World Bank. They are using this information to build this, to prepare this a new program, WASH program in Haiti. And we expect also to our partners, existing and future partners for the waste sector in Haiti, they can use this information to contribute to the accessibility water in Haiti. And because we really want to achieve the SDGs indicators, but we are very, very low to obtain the result. But we really want to have the information available to take the best decision to complete that. And I want to thanks
our donors. Next slide. Our partners for their contribution to our system. Thank you so much.
Miriam. Can you stay here? Yeah. So let's say, so now I want to thank all the panelists for their very interesting cases. Thank you for bearing with us. We had some technological issues, as you saw. So thank you for your patience. I also want to invite our audience online to send their questions if they have through the platform, through Pathable, through the chat of Pathable. And now we will come to like a panel conversation with Miriam, Gisela, and our online colleagues. And I want to start. Let me pick, because I want to go to storytelling, if you are okay. So I want to invite any of you to tell us in 1 minute the development value of water through an experience of a person or family that has participated on one of your projects. So to go, let's go to the communities now. So who wants to go first? Not everybody. Gisela, okay.
Okay. Well, one example I would like to share with you isn't not just about the family, it's more about the implementation of the experience that we have shown here. It was a community called Puente Ochape. It's in the district of Cascas. And they started the process with sort of 6 hours per day per household. And after the process, now they have 24-hour services. They have they are providing chlorinated water. Their default rate is almost 0. And they have an operator which is working with the community for about 5 years now. And I think this is an example of what we can achieve when working with them. And the one thing that is important to show is that these are social processes. And most of us are engineers. I am an engineer, and we want results, goals, time. But social processes are different. Our processes also, but take time. We need to be sure that the amount of investment in time will provide you results. And when articulating all of the actors and the same in one equation, it's not easy, but we can assure you that these results will last, not only forever, but you can achieve sustainability at the end.
Thank you, Gisela. What a comprehensive answer. Thank you. Anyone else want to share? Colleagues online, do you want to share in 1 minute a story of a person? You?
Yeah.
Miriam? Okay.
Well,
let's give the word the floor to Miriam, and then we can go online.
but I need to explain you briefly our expenses to implement this system in Haiti, because we talk about a government agency, because it's not easy to change what they are doing in the past, to have a system of monitoring of data also. So we start at the low level to track the data and so on, explain the regional level what they can do with this data, and the national level. Is this way we are taking to have the big system we have now.
Any what would you say it's a challenge in working like with your colleagues at the government level? What would you
Yes,
say?
because when they have many here to do the same thing. It's not easy to change it for them. They don't have to report any data or why they do it in the field. And now we ask they need to monthly to submit the data on tools, and it's not, for the beginning, it wasn't easy to do. But for this moment, they feel the spot, but it's.
They feel empowered.
Yes.
Someone online, does someone online want to share a story, or I can go to other questions?
I can share a story. Can you hear me?
Loud.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
All right, so one of the stories that I have, it's actually a similar group of women, right? Not exactly the ones you saw in the picture, but a group of women very similar who got together to be part of a puppet making workshop in their community. And they built relationships with each other. They became so solidified with one another and started to talk about the water issues in their community that they decided to overthrow the water user committee that was in place, led by men. They were unsatisfied with it, and they were like, "We're gonna take over. We're gonna replace it, and we're gonna lead it." And so this is a story of empowerment. This is a story of gender equality that was not really an expected result or expected consequence, right? We're talking about we wanted to see changes in behaviors, very specific behaviors, but these went beyond their expectations. And so now these women are leading their own water user committee, doing the repairs to make the water service provision in their community function as it should. That's the story.
Thank you, Anna. Great story. Just okay, maybe, and then I will just. I'm not gonna follow the script anymore, because I think I would like to start opening to questions from the public and to interact with the panelists. I think we are in a cozy space, and I think we can do that. So I just want to ask Yusuke if Yusuke, in one of your how about you in Lima, when you went to the site, to this very remote site? Have you heard any story of any person? How was the change of the system? Before they had to walk very long distances to go and get water, but with the program that you did there, what have you seen? And tell us a story.
Yes, I went to the site where they bring the water bags. The families there talk to us that we picture water and to the spot of the tanker truck. They have to walk 1 hour or 2 hours, take up water buckets and then come back to their home. So but they bring some smaller bottle of water, it is very easier to carry, and so they appreciate us that, how to say, that it makes their life convenient or a bit better in the sense of the taking care of their life. So that's a kind of simple story.
Just like a follow-up question before I open really to the public, how in this type of projects, how do you see sustainability there, Yusuke?
Yes, that's a very great question. I talked with Setapal how you realize this sustainability of the project. The Setapal is doing this project as just a social responsibility. So, but this is the how to say the free to go project. So this is the it's very important to ensure the sustainability, financial sustainability to maintain the project. In the sense that Setapal is focusing on the work on the yes, non-revenue water issue. The SEDAPA is struggling with the taking tariff from the water users. That it can take a more tariff or the adequate tariff from the existing water system. This is that it can take adequate revenue to the approaching those vulnerable populations. That is a strategy of SEDAPA. So this is the approach of the ensuring sustainability.
So now maybe we can really open the floor to questions from you guys, from the public, if you want. Here, Juan. Yeah, online. Please, if you have questions online, please.
Good afternoon. My name is Juan Pablo Romero. I'm a consultant and I'm from Colombia, and I work in applied economics and collective action platforms. My question is for either one of you, and it has to do with the design of the interventions. The possibilities of the cooperation institutions are different from the local and the government entities. So how can you develop interventions that also strengthen public institutions? Because sometimes the interventions can seem like islands that cannot be reproduced by the public sector. So how can you empower public institutions so the success that you have can be replicated by the public sector?
Thank you for your question. So anybody wants to jump in?
I could go. So in the Lazos de Agua program, some of our implementing partners are actually the governments. That's the case in Mexico, where the Comisión Estatal de Agua, and so the state level commission is actually the one in charge of putting in place the infrastructure, providing the wash services, and then another implementing partner complements that intervention with the SABC approach. Same for Paraguay. And this sort of goes back to what Gisela was saying about how collaboration can be a challenge, right? It can be difficult, it can be slow, it takes time. But once all the jigsaw pieces are together, it brings you much further. And in that sense, to answer more your question, Juan Pablo, bringing them along in this journey of intervention and showing them how we design and how we collaborate and what are the results that it brings, and piecing our part of the intervention, that's like the island one, with their and piggybacking into them, hopefully also makes them see other ways of doing it. And right now we're also equipping those public institutions with tools. Some of them have taken trainings also on SABC, for example. So they're trying to see how they can integrate some elements of this approach into their ways of doing things in the way they do their social aspects of their engineering works. So yeah, working together.
Thank you, Anna. Anybody else would like to give maybe 1 minute answer to his question, or does anybody have any other question? Okay, thank you.
Hi, thank you for these really great examples of success. I was curious about the financial sustainability aspect, and just wondered if you guys have examples of good revenue making or any innovative finance frameworks that you've used or found interesting working on this sector.
Does anybody want to jump on that question, to answer that question? Yeah, financial sustainability.
Are you asking about financial, I'm sorry? In terms of the community or in terms of all of the rural sector.
Different approaches, like projects that have been like revenue making, or is it all non for profit and it's all like grant based, or are there any, I don't know, blended finance models or result based finance? Just wondered, it might be the case that it's not the answer is just no, but was curious about if there's innovation.
Okay, I can.
Go ahead.
Parton, you
Go ahead,
complement.
and then I'll-
Well, I think it depends on the context of the country. For example, in Peru, we don't have subsidies for rural population. In general, for example, for the urban population, they have like subsidies between parts of the city with higher income to the lowest income population, right? In rural communities, because most of them are all poor people, we are not used to, they haven't established subsidies, but we know many cases that have houses or community organizations that have huge revenues in terms of sustainability, financial sustainability. And what they have built is an approach so aligned with the level of income of seasonal income they have, because most of those population are based on agriculture and basically agriculture communities, right? So when they harvest, for example, 2 times a year, they make like an extra amount of money to compensate the monthly amount they put. So at the end of the period, the community has achieved financial sustainability. They have gained incomes, for example, to build their the office for the water facility. They have money to buy some spare parts, to make some repair, mostly maybe not bigger expansion of the systems, because they require a higher amount of money, but sufficient to not depend on the local government, or not depend on nobody else, in terms of assuring they have enough money to sustain all the provision needed by this local community.
Thank you, Stella. Thank you. So we have a question from someone online, and that is if we have contemplated including risk management and disasters and climate change in one of our interventions. Maybe Edgar. Edgar, are you there?
Yes, thank you, Ernenek. Thank you, very kind. Sorry, I had to turn off my video. So in terms of our intervention, every activity that we do, actually it has the prevision or mitigation of risk mitigation in terms of the different activities that we do in terms of the Satoso. It includes, for example, the coordination with the municipalities and coordination with the health ministry in Guatemala. But besides to that, every implementation includes, for example, Satoso was implemented during emergency situations. For example, in the ETA and IOTA events. So I can say that each intervention that we do actually has it in terms of our work. And for example, the intervention could be could take less time than it could. For example, it takes 3 or 4 months to implement hygiene, sanitation, and water quality. And it is including the municipality and everything. So probably that can be part of the response, Ernest and colleagues. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Edgar. Is there, oh, please, yes. Please ask questions.
Hola.
Yeah, eso es solo para,
Ah,
para
ya,
los
ok.
colegas en línea.
Bueno, yo quería hacer un comentario en relación a la medición que se hace en los distintos países en Latinoamérica, tanto del acceso al agua potable como derecho humano y al saneamiento, ¿no? ¿En qué medida esta medición que se hace tiene como un punto específico la calidad del agua? Si esta agua a la que la población está accediendo es de calidad, ¿la pueden tomar? ¿O solamente dicen, ya tiene agua en un grifo, pero luego si vamos a la comunidad no pueden tomar esa agua? Y lo mismo para la medición que están haciendo los gobiernos con el saneamiento, no solo se trata de que no haya defecación al aire libre, ¿no? Porque si miden eso como saneamiento, pues nos estamos mintiendo un poco porque la contaminación va a seguir de los acuíferos y de las fuentes de agua. Entonces, si se tendría que hacer la medición, tendría que ser muy a detalle y diferenciar, ¿no? No estamos cumpliendo los objetivos del desarrollo 2030, pero ¿con qué calidad, ¿no? Si se llega al tratamiento de las aguas residuales y luego se va a la economía circular, entonces que no sean estadísticas mentirosas de los gobiernos, sino que sean reales y que en esa realidad nos pongamos metas que podamos medir realmente y alcanzar y doblar los esfuerzos para que no se contaminen nuestras aguas y todos tengamos derecho humano a acceder a ellas. ¿En qué medida ustedes han visto que esas mediciones son reales o no?
Somebody wants to answer that.
I can take it, René. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Ok. Sí, pues el Objetivo de Desarrollo Sostenible, el 6, y la meta 6.1 y 6.2, es el Joint Monitoring Program, el que se encarga de hacer estimados globales, ¿no? Sobre el avance de servicios de agua y de saneamiento, y bueno, y de higiene también. Y dentro de esa medición tienen una clasificación sobre el nivel de servicio de agua que realmente le llega a los hogares y que incluye justamente desde el 2015 la calidad de agua y la continuidad. Es una escalera de servicio y el nivel más alto es manejado de forma segura, se llama, ¿no? Entonces el hogar tiene que recibir agua en su casa, ¿no? La llave tiene que estar en el predio, ¿no? Bueno, puede ser una llave o otra fuente, pero tiene que tener niveles de calidad, tiene que tener 0 coliformes, ¿no? Libre de contaminantes fecales y químicos prioritarios y continuidad, ¿no? Igual para el saneamiento hay una manera de medirlo también, tiene una escalera de servicio y el nivel más alto, que es al que queremos llegar, ¿no? Toma en cuenta el manejo del flujo fecal, ¿no? Entonces, no simplemente es acabar con la defecación al aire libre, que sería como la prioridad para empezar, ¿no? Pero también es llevar a la población a un nivel de saneamiento manejado de forma segura, como lo clasifican. Ahora, los gobiernos integran esto en sus maneras de medir la cobertura. En lazos de agua, por ejemplo, nosotros hacemos encuestas hogares en donde medimos estos aspectos, ¿no? Entonces, no puedo hablar por los gobiernos, pero por lo menos nosotros lo hacemos en nuestro monitoreo.
Gracias, Ana. ¿Alguien más quisiera complementar? Hay una pregunta de Giovanna. The mic, please.
Good afternoon. I'm sorry because I'm not going to speak in English because I'm better in Spanish. So, bueno, mi nombre es Guito Eduardo. Yo yo soy el jefe nacional de la DINEPA en Haití. Bueno, mi colega ha ido, bueno, ocupó ya ahora mismo mi puesto, el puesto que yo había ocupado en 2012. Y hay una precisión que yo quería añadir con respecto al sistema nuevo, joven, que estamos llevando a cabo, porque es un sistema que lleva nada más 2 años y todavía quedan muchas cosas por hacer. Una de las cosas más fundamentales, Miriam ahorita había hablado de la dificultad que hemos ido teniendo para sensibilizar, para darle más conciencia a los colegas nuestros. Pero bueno, la meta principal es ahora ver cómo pudiéramos sensibilizar a las autoridades locales, porque por ley la DINEPA tiene que traspasar la gestión de los servicios de agua y saneamiento a las autoridades locales. Y entonces por eso que tenemos que por lo menos hacer la integración, digamos, y la concientización de las autoridades, los alcaldes, los representantes en diferentes comunidades para que ellos formen parte de esa familia y también puedan tomar decisiones en base a lo existente. Muchas gracias.
Gracias, Guido. Te voy a integrar al panel. I'm gonna make you join the panel. I would like to make a follow-up questions on una pregunta de seguimiento en eso. ¿Cuál crees tú que es el reto mayor de DINEPA? Which is the biggest challenge for you guys at DINEPA to really interact with the local level? ¿Cuál es el mayor reto para interactuar con y para convencer a los gobiernos locales?
Primero, sensibilizarlo con respecto a la gestión de los recursos hídricos, porque a veces tú te encuentras con unos alcaldes que son comerciantes, digamos, de leña o de carbón vegetal, y esto disminuye, digamos, el manto freático o la producción de agua a nivel de los manantiales. Y también a nivel nacional, uno de los retos más grandes es pensar en la diversificación, digamos, de los recursos hídricos. Dejar de pensar en la captación de los manantiales o en el manto freático, sino pensar en las aguas superficiales. El difunto presidente con quien yo tenía, digamos, mucho contacto y también había, digamos, arrancado esa iniciativa con la construcción de la primera presa que tenemos, que es la presa Marión, y a partir de esa presa Marión, con la ayuda financiera del Banco Interamericano de Desarrollo, vamos a hacer una red entre 3 comunas y ver cómo esas autoridades de esas 3 comunas pudieran, digamos, tener un conocimiento mejor sobre el sistema que estamos desarrollando. Muchas gracias.
Gracias, thank you. ¿Alguna otra?
Yo no quería tomar el asiento de mi colega, bueno,
pero
yo le he pedido disculpas,
now
claro.
You are out of the panel. You just here in the panel for a minute. Now you are not in the panel anymore. Any other question from the audience here, or I can keep asking questions online, guys? No, don't be shy. Okay. So now I'm going to ask some other questions in terms of maybe Edgar or Anna, you want to jump in. In your cases, behavior change was a central element. What do you think is the biggest challenge you have encountered in making these interventions effective? And how do you assess the effectiveness of behavior change? Edgar, maybe you want to start.
Gracias, Ernenek. Voy a intervenir en este caso. La verdad es de que cada intervención que se hace en términos de cambio de comportamiento tiene que modificarlo y verse en resultados en términos de monitoreo. Y si estos resultados en el monitoreo, digamos, en términos de gente que está aplicando las prácticas de higiene, gente que tiene construido un sanitario, gente que tiene acceso a agua de calidad, entonces esto es un elemento que visualiza o que evidencia que el cambio de comportamiento efectivamente está teniendo el resultado. Porque si se están haciendo actividades de cambio de comportamiento y estas no se ven en términos de resultado, va a ser difícil poderlo, digamos, determinar. Entonces, digamos que si al final del día una comunidad antes, 4 meses antes, tenía digamos, un 70% de cobertura en saneamiento y después de la actividad tiene 100% de saneamiento, esto es un resultado como evidente y como evidencia de que las acciones que se están teniendo a nivel comunitario están teniendo ese resultado. Entonces, si las personas antes no tenían un lavamanos y ahora ya lo tienen, esto es un ejemplo también de que están teniendo resultados. Es decir, la metodología per se es interesante, es novedosa y tiene que dar resultados. Entonces, al final del día, esto es lo que cuenta, ¿verdad? Y efectivamente, si esto va teniendo resultados, puede irse escalando a manera de municipios, ayuda a que los mismos municipios se fortalezcan y ayuda también a que el Estado asuma nuevos mecanismos de intervención. Entonces, esto sería más o menos lo que pienso y lo que se ha evidenciado en cuanto al trabajo que tenemos hasta este punto de más de 800 comunidades, 62,000 familias, etcétera, ¿verdad? Cambio.
And now I'm gonna go to you, Miriam. You mentioned to me when we were preparing the session that you think that these kind of systems that you presented, it's not only for decision making, but also you mentioned innovation. Can you share examples of innovation that happened thanks to this system?
The innovation is with the system, we can integrate any other system on one system. For example, we have another platform you are using for the commercial aspect. We integrate it in our system, or someone will access in SEPA can show the information about the commercial aspect, and they can see the commercial aspect for the day they make they can see the intervention for the day where they are. And we are also integrate another platform in our system if according the technical part with all the water system in Haiti. In French, we talk about cadastre, technical cadastre, and this information integrate easily in our system, and we can show without to do again the work, the data collection on the field. We can just implement it on our system. It's very interesting to mention that, because and we are not need to do everything in a model platform. If you have something out in a model, we can integrate it on it. It's one of the innovation I can say for us.
Thank you very much. And with this, I'm going to close the panel discussion. And I want maybe a big applause for the panelists. Thank you very much. Now we are almost approaching the end of the session. Thank you very much for being here with us. But before we have Grisel Medina from the National Water Commission, CONAGUA in Mexico, who will offer a critical reflection and a call to action for us. Grisel, please.
Muchas gracias, Ernenek. Buenas tardes en Estocolmo. Buenos días, países hermanos de Latinoamérica y el Caribe. Reciban un caluroso saludo por parte del Director General de la Comisión Nacional del Agua de México y de la gerente y equipo de la Gerencia de Cooperación Internacional. Concluyen las presentaciones de esta sesión denominada Maximizando el valor del agua para el desarrollo, que expuso valiosas experiencias de la región. Agradezco la participación de las y los panelistas, manifestando mi reconocimiento al grupo organizador de la Semana Mundial del Agua de Estocolmo y del Foco de las Américas y el Caribe. Como se ha puntualizado, de acuerdo con los datos de la Organización de las Naciones Unidas, en el mundo, 1 de cada 3 personas no cuenta con acceso a agua salubre. 2 de cada 5 personas no disponen de una instalación básica para lavado de mano con aguas y más de 673 millones de personas no hacen uso de instalaciones sanitarias, cuyo propósito es atender las medidas de higiene personal. Aproximadamente 160 millones de personas en Latinoamérica viven en zonas rurales, de los cuales 20 millones se encuentran en comunidades donde se carece de servicios de agua potable y saneamiento, lo cual se traduce en altos índices de morbilidad causada por enfermedades generadas por el consumo de agua insalubre. Es por ello que surge la necesidad de implementar sistemas de saneamiento y de abastecimiento con tecnologías no convencionales y de instalaciones mejoradas. Esto para abatir las consecuencias de servicios de mala calidad que repercuten en la salud de las personas y especialmente de nuestras niñas y niños. Como se expresó en el más reciente Día Mundial del Agua, la demanda de este recurso ha aumentado, incrementando su uso de manera excesiva y como consecuencia de ello, su contaminación. Para enfrentarlo, resulta primordial incrementar la inversión en programas de agua, saneamiento e higiene, con un enfoque de sostenibilidad. Solo así se logrará cumplir con las metas del Objetivo de Desarrollo Sostenible 6, es decir, garantizar la disponibilidad de agua y su gestión sostenible y el saneamiento para todos y todas. Es importante enfatizar que la participación de las y los panelistas ha demostrado que la generación de concientización se puede manifestar de diferentes formas. A través del arte social, como lo expuso Lazos de Agua, mediante folletos educativos y agua que se entrega en comunidades aisladas, como lo realiza la Agencia de Cooperación Internacional de Japón en Perú, con un monitoreo comunitario como se hace en Guatemala, y con la revisión de ajustes y tarifas como los proponen en SUNAS. El agua no debe ser una fuente de conflicto, sino de cooperación multisectorial, por lo que se vuelve esencial que trabajemos juntos para lograr una correcta y justa gestión del agua en América Latina y el Caribe. Por ello, les invito a tomar como ejemplo las acciones expuestas por las y los panelistas con el objetivo de incentivarnos a explorar y localizar soluciones para enfrentar los retos y enfocar nuestros esfuerzos para que nuestros países puedan tener acceso en forma eficiente, eficaz y justa al recurso hídrico. Avancemos juntos. Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much, Grisel, and thank you all of you for joining us today. It was a real pleasure having you with us today. Thank you to the panelists, for those that came to Stockholm and for those that join us online. Please, for those, if there is still people online, please fill. We have some surveys. Yeah, Joanna, do we have a survey online? So please fill the survey. If please fill it. It will help us to improve the future sessions. And have a great afternoon and rest of your week. Thank you very much.